Hello and welcome to another meeting of the Geek Cabal. This is podcast episode 9. Cabal Whisperings. If we're still doing that, right?
Yes, that's the name. We're sticking with it.
Cabal Whisperings. Yeah. I don't know. I do the intro stuff. I'm like the announcer guy. You just hand me the paperwork.
I know we need branding. So, and I that name sounded original enough. We're whispering into the mics, hoping it picks up as well. Well, at least I'm a low talker.
Yeah. Well,
you'd never know that watching this. I wouldn't think, but never.
September 27th. So just trying to get some filming in here. I said we'll have another one tomorrow where we're actually filming the Ahsoka episode, because that'll be the time when I have my son back. We can watch it, and then all of us collect our thoughts on it.
Yes, despite when this is being filmed, we're not going to put it up till Monday, which will be October 2nd, I believe.
Yeah.
So, because I tried to settle us into like an actual schedule for these, and so as long as we can film them later in the week. We're in the middle of the week this week because this weekend's going to be kind of disruptive. But later in the week, then we get them up on the Monday. So at least that's the plan.
Well, I guess I didn't do introductions. I'm Jim, by the way.
And Bob.
We're just trying to do this all out of order. We don't want to have any sort of script. We have a general topic list of things we want to go over.
Yes, for those of you watching on camera, I don't know if you can see this, but it is one single page on my phone with general outlines and a handful of topics. That's it. That's the script. Our writers are still on strike.
So, actually, I think a lot of discussion may be actually around channel news, because there's, and it should be, and again, it'll be before this one. Had a new series that I kind of wanted to test the waters with, and that is with all the unboxings that I've been doing.
Jim, I hate to cut you off.
You are.
I just had a realization that I completely misunderstood what you just said. I thought you were going from this is going to be up on Monday, so tomorrow will be Tuesday when we watch episode 8 together and record it. You actually mean tomorrow's in Thursday, September whatever.
Yep.
Because that's when that's when you'll have Owen over here, and you guys will be able to watch the episode that I've already seen, but I'll come over and watch it again, and then we're going to record.
Correct.
So yes, folks, I was completely off on that. However, as you're watching this, tomorrow will be episode 8, hopefully. But as we're recording this, tomorrow will in fact be episode 7. And I've already seen that Jim and Owen have not.
And if you're thoroughly confused with that, I am too. So it's all right.
Welcome to X-Men timeline kind of stuff. The one thing the movies got right. All right, Jim, you were saying.
Okay. So with all the unboxings that we've done, so if you haven't checked out, we have my newest unboxing up, which is the unboxing of a Nintendo Entertainment System. Check that one out. That one's pretty good with all of the stuff found inside that. That was a treasure trove of information. Lots of Nintendo Power stuff.
Lots of power.
Yes. And it got me kind of thinking that one of the things that I love about those types of videos is I talk about how I came across all that stuff, where, I went to a yard sale, I went to an auction, whatever that may be. Because I was definitely not one person that would want to go out and try to pay full price for stuff. I mean, there is a lot of times going to thrift stores or going to auctions, like actual auctions, like in-person auctions, like raise your hand to bid kind of auctions, and stuff like that. And it's interesting because everything has a tail to it. And it's just, I don't know, just something that comes up. I mean, and originally I was going to go with like a tales of video game collecting, but with the channel, I want to make sure that, other things can fit into that. So this can be tales of collecting. Just note that probably a lot of what I'm going to do is video games. With Bobby could be, finding the half off Marvel Legend figures, or
yeah, that's a recent experience that should probably get its own little video. But no, actually, I know what I'm going to do the first video on. It's something I got as a present, and now is probably close to, like, at least in monetary terms, the crown jewel of the collection. So, yeah. But stay tuned for that one.
Yeah, and I've definitely have a lot. And the great thing is that a lot of my stuff isn't in the box, so this will give me another avenue to be able to actually talk about those items.
Oh, this item I'm going to do the video on is still packaged and is going to stay packaged. It will not be an unboxing video.
Well, that's like some of the. So my son Owen, he collects the Black Series
Yeah,
Star Wars figures, and he's got two that he wants for his Christmas list, and he says he doesn't care if they're packaged or not because his plan is to take them out of the package and put them on the shelf.
which
Uh,
two, if you don't mind my asking?
uh, Darth Nihilus,
Okay.
his unbox is a $60 figure on eBay, and then a certain particular version of Cad Bane.
There's
Like
more than one?
there's more than one, yes.
Hmm.
I think it's the Clone Wars one, the Clone Wars animated or a cartoon, or no, the computer generated one, not the. I don't think he was in the. Well, he wasn't in the other one, so the 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 Jindy Tartakovsky Clone Wars cartoon.
Oh, no, no. I thought you meant like between Clone Wars or Rebels, but yeah, no, he's not in the other one.
I, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't make an appearance in Rebels, but
Uh, no, I've only got two Black Series figures. Total divergence here. Darth Revan and the Dark Troopers.
yeah, and I can say Owen his big. I mean, his collection is almost all uh like Imperial or pretty much all the bad guys because honestly, um,
They look cooler.
well, that and their uniform, they're all part of a series. I think the only ones that he has that maybe aren't is he's got Bill Burr dressed as the
Yeah, that's up there with the. I have tons of what are called Marvel Legends figures. Uh, Most of which are all the ones I buy are comic book themed. But I have one. Well, I've got a few that are movie themed, but I bought some on clearance. I'm gonna give it to someone as a present or sell them or something. I didn't buy them for me, but the one I did buy for myself is Owen Wilson's character, just because it's ridiculous that Owen Wilson has an action figure, and I'll eventually find a jet ski that's in the right scale for him. That's a Loki inside joke for those of you. You should watch that, by the way. Season 2 is coming up. You're gonna get some reviews on that.
so yeah, and like I said, there's may even be where Owen gets in and starts talking about some of his collection and stuff because um, we found a nice vintage toy store, not Toy Story, that's a movie, a toy store that's not too far from here that um, he visits quite often to peruse and see what they've got.
Oh,
The Evansville one, Evansville Toy and Games.
one on Morgan Avenue.
Yep, they've
Okay.
they've expanded to almost the entire building now.
Oh, I have to go
Like
in there and check that out then
like the
sometime.
back half is like full of stuff too now, and
Yeah.
comics and all sorts of stuff. So um,
It's been a little bit since I've been in there. I'll have to go back there.
yeah, they've really grown quite a bit, and the amount of collectible stuff. And it's nice for me because they also do the video game stuff too. So actually, the two Sega CD games from the previous podcast, that's where I got those from.
Did kind of wonder.
So um, yeah, because there's another place in Evansville you can get games, but I don't know.
There's a couple others.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the vintage games and stuff. I mean, it's coming back, so it's just now trying to find them in an actual decent price. I don't.
Is not to cut you off. Is the book broker still open anywhere? I think they had a couple locations,
I have not been on that side of town in
but
forever.
I think the one on like I think there was one on Diamond Avenue, and I think that's where Ollie's is now. Which total side note on that. Those of you who are interested in Marvel Legends figures and some of the GI Joe classified figures and whatever else, you can find them dirt cheap at Ollie's. Oh, sure, it's the wave from the Eternals movie, but they probably have the whole thing and it's half price. So there you go. And just a mishmash of all kinds of other stuff. But yeah, there's some good finds at Ollie's. Occasionally, Marvel omnibus books find their way there. Yeah. So
But
I didn't know if the book broker was still a thing. I'd only went in there like once or twice, and
yeah, no, it's been a while. I was gonna say the other two stores are on the north end of town, so it's a little bit easier to get to versus having to drive all the way to the south end of town to get to it. So, but no, it's just a nice thing because, like I said, I have lots of stories. I've got a lot of items, and that the way of, maybe before I start, I don't know, playing some of the games or whatever, just bringing them in, talking about them, kind of get feedback and see what people think about it. Some people are probably blown away by what I paid for some of those stuff. And again, I'm not saying that I want to find stuff and rip people off. I'm not like like swindling people.
But
But
blown away because of cheap or expensive?
how cheap I paid for
Okay.
stuff. There is hardly anything I paid full price for. A lot of the stuff, and again, it wasn't like I would go in and like I'm not saying I would never go in and swindle somebody. I'd ask people what the price is on something, and most of the time it was usually pretty good. And some of the problem was is like I had so many duplicate consoles because half the time I'd go to like a yard sale and I'd be like, I just need the games. How much are the games? Like, no, we're selling it as a bunch. So I'd buy that and I'd get an extra consoles. At one point in time, and I like my last yard sale, I ended up selling 4 Sega Genesis, at least one regular Nintendo, one Super Nintendo, and one or two Sony PlayStations, and that still left me with stock.
Yeah, I had a similar issue whenever I was still collecting the 3 3/4 inch GI Joe figures. I'd buy lots of parts because apparently some people don't understand how to put them back together. I do. I've got bags of extra screws for the back plate and for the rubber bands and everything. It's not hard at all once it's real simple once you've done it. And so I just buy like I'd find lots that had parts that I knew I could assemble, or like that I had other parts to them. But that left me with a mountain of parts that I've still got somewhere as I've been slowly selling those off. I've just got the parts. That's just going to end up being a lot on eBay at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, but like I said, it makes for interesting, and honestly, I think that was probably one of my most natural flowing individual videos I've ever done. Just talking about stuff. Um, yeah, like I said, that'll be out before this one. So if you're hearing this and haven't seen that, go back and watch that.
Yeah, I have that one. That one's already edited and it's ready to go. But you referenced the Nintendo video in it, so I wanted to make sure the Nintendo video was up first.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'd rather it be up anyways because I just because it's starting something new and all that. But no, that's gonna say the Nintendo one. We only have had it up for a day, and it's already in some traction on it. So it's interesting because the one thing I bring up in that is just the like you buy a console nowadays and just the lackluster. I mean, yeah, it's cool to get it hooked up. I mean, everybody's about getting the thing hooked up, but like the older stuff, it was always about all the other presentation of stuff. Like you couldn't just go look up online. Oh, what kind of games can I get for it? Well, no, you'd look through all of the material that came with it, and I don't know. It brought back a flood of memories of. I'm probably sure that's probably where I got my subscription for Nintendo Power from. Because at some point I'm gonna go through that stack of stuff because I've got a whole tote of them out in the garage. Some other ones too, like Game Pro and other ones, but mostly Nintendo Power.
yeah. Well, I mean, we kind of talked about that when we did the unboxing for the Warcraft 2 expansion,
Yep.
and I mentioned that the other day I found a bunch of the stuff from SimCity 2000. This book's got manual. It's got like two or three different manuals and like a reference card, and then a catalog from Maxis Games showing all the other games that they're selling. And
Yeah, I need to see. I actually have my box for SimCity is about as good a condition as that one is.
yeah, there you go.
It's
SimCity 1,
2000. No,
2000. Okay.
SimCity 2000. I also have Midtown Madness, which is I think the one I have is the Chicago edition, which is a little bit newer. Not say newer. It's still like mid. What? Oh, come on now. I'm sure I'm speaking up just fine. Maybe. Uh, I don't know. I was trying to look at the equalizer there, and for a second there, it didn't look like it was picking up anything. But no, the Midtown Madness. I want to say it was late '90s when it came out, but we had that and the steering wheel controller and pedals and everything that went along with that. Got a box of that too. And somewhere out in my garage, I have all sorts of boxes that I picked up at the one of the thrift stores here in town. I got them for free. They had them in the free bin. There was all the game and everything in there.
Huh.
It was all Carmen Sandiego games.
Oh, there you go. Now you
Um,
know where in the world she is.
yeah, she's in my garage.
Just waiting on the authorities. She is a criminal.
Yeah, well, I just waiting for acapella to
Yeah,
sing.
and the Chief.
Yes.
There's some memories.
But yeah, no, it's a. I think it's gonna be a good thing. We're also with those individual videos. We are trying a different setup because we found that the camera that we use for this general setup works if the camera's far away. For some reason, if it gets much closer, like any movement, anything starts blurring, causing the auto balance to go out of whack. But I guess that's what you get when you kind of go cheap on the first camera. I don't recommend anybody starting off new to just go out and spend thousands of dollars on the equipment.
No, no, especially since your cell phone is, as long as it's not like my cell phone because it's old, is probably good enough.
Yeah,
And even mine, like I could probably get by. Uh, I could probably get by with with using this phone if I just didn't care a whole lot about the quality. So yeah, like Jim said, don't rush out and do that.
but yeah. So the idea is that with these podcasts, we're going to use this one camera because it allows us to hook up multiple mics. But with the like I said, the individual ones, we're using a different mic that seems to have a little bit better audio quality overall than these do. But these aren't bad. So, and like I said, it works for the podcast. But that's
Yeah. So kind of related to that, I had actually been about to ask Jim just before he told me he's going to make the video, if we should consider, since we have the unboxing old stuff, what about like a talking about old stuff that we have that's not in a box?
yeah,
Like I've got several classic space Lego sets, and they're together, so I'm not going to reassemble them. I've got things like that. I've got like I mentioned the contents of some of the other game boxes, but I don't have the box anymore. I do have older figures. I have a Star Wars figure from, I believe, 77 or 78. It's older than I am. And it's not the first wave. I believe it's the second wave based on the number of characters on the back. And that's what the video is going to be about. There's a whole spiel. You're going to hear all about that. But if we wanted to do something like that, and so I think we're just going to go with the tales of collecting for the things like that and keep it under one banner. Now, having said that, any of you folks that want to chime in, do you want them all under one thing, or do you want a separation there for some reason? Let us know in the comments.
but yeah. Like I say, we actually I think had more to talk about at the channel this
Oh
time than.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's other stuff. Uh, so look forward to Jim's video, and we're gonna have some other videos along those lines because I know at the very least, Charbroiled Beefcake has put forth that he wants to hear more about some of this stuff. So anyone else, let us know. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I did have one other mention of. Now I didn't know about this personally was uh, but of like doing like actually doing like if beating a game is possible in a kind of hard to trying to think how to explain this. So his thing was, do you think drag or was it Double Dragon could be beaten without doing a certain move? And I can't think of what it is now. Um, and I said, well, I don't remember playing Double Dragon that much through it to say could it or could it not. But um, it was kind of an interesting topic though of is it possible to do this in a video game? Is it possible to kind of I don't know. I'm still trying to think of how that subject would go because I mean, without actually playing the game and showing it, how would that kind of work? But it was kind of a neat concept on it though, as well as is it possible to do this? Is it possible in maybe in like in a D&D campaign? I mean, obviously anything could be possible, but just like say with the standard rules, is it possible to do X, Y, and Z, and how would you go about doing that? Kind of thing. Same thing with video games. So I'm gonna do some thinking on that and try to refine that and see what I can come up with. That
Yeah, that does remind me of memes I've seen about 3.5 D&D. Uh, Basically saying that there's a feat. If I'm recalling everything correctly. There's a feat called leadership, and with it you get a follower. So you essentially get your own guy following you around, and the higher level, the more people you can have. And some people are like, yeah, you can do that, or you can just have a really high charisma and just convince people to follow you. Don't waste a feat on it. So that kind of sounds like what you're talking about. Like
Yeah,
maybe is there a different way to do things than what the
yeah,
game designers intended necessarily? Like
yeah,
ways to circumvent the rules.
yeah. And so,
Like
so
the if you're the barbarians, like in older editions, like some ludicrously high strength, like everything becomes a door at a certain point.
yeah, so it's a good thought. I was just like I said, I wasn't really familiar with the exact situation because Double Dragon was not one of my games I would go to play. I was more into the Mega Man series, but
That's because Mega Man is awesome.
it is. So, and I'm trying to think if there's anything that's just like, oh, you could, and I know there's plenty of games out there. Actually, I just watched one was so there's a YouTuber that I watched, and his YouTube channel is called, you can beat video games. That's all it is. So he just shows how to beat every kind of video game, and he had Super Metroid.
I'm glad that he's reaffirming something I already know, but keep going.
Well, but the thing is that the whole premise of his show is to go through and
Actually, show you how
show,
to beat the video games.
yes, and he showed how to 100% Super Metroid without having to worry about how to wall jump. So like the one thing where the little critters teach you how to wall jump, and that's how you get to like one. Yeah, like the path it takes doesn't have you even go to that area until you get the screw attack, or I think it's a screw attack. I think you have both the space jump and the screw attack. So you get 100%, and he can still beat it under 3 hours. So, but so the idea, kind of that's kind of similar. That was like, well, how could you beat that without doing any wall jumps and get 100%? Well, there you go,
Yeah.
there you go. So, anyways, you know who you are out there. I don't remember I didn't see what his comment was, so I didn't know what his YouTube handle is, but he knows who he is.
Oh, was that from one of the comments?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, I work with him, so he commented on one of the videos. I don't know what his YouTube handle is on there, but uh, he's some of our friends from up north. So,
Okay.
anywho,
I was gonna say for most of that, I thought you were talking about Charborough Beefcake there, and
no,
it's like, I know he's a Metroid fan, but all right.
no, I don't even know. I don't think he was a Metroid fan either. I don't know. I'm just saying. If I'm just kind of thinking of some ideas that would kind of go into that line. So I'm gonna see what I can do and try to come up with some ideas on it on my end. Like I said, D&D, it's easy because it's you just like here's the situation you want to happen, and normally rules would kind of squash that from happening. Well, this is how you can get around that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got another video you need to talk about. So
Yeah. So as Jim mentioned, he's got the NES unboxing video. I filmed finally got around to filming a Lego video. Is opening and building a Lego Star Wars Stormtrooper mech, and it's already up. It's got the time lapsed building in it, which was my first real experimentation of the editor with the time lapse thing. So, uh, ended up taking what was like about an 18-minute clip and crushing it down to about 3 minutes so that the song would fit. So, it's the William Tell Overture for those of you that don't know. Then, just another note on the clips that we're putting out from the podcasts. I mentioned it the last one, and just go ahead and mention it again here. They are just clips from the podcast, like several other podcasters seem to do. And so if you're watching the podcasts all the way through, there's nothing new for you there. It would be great if you watch them again, but understandable if you don't. That's what they are. Just telling you if you are already watching the podcast, there isn't really anything new there. I mean, other than the intro, which is literally the same intro in all of them. And so I've been trying to find, interesting moments from them. And so from our last podcast, uh, is decidedly the Star Wars segment. However, part of my goal is to also make short videos, and the Star Wars segment ended up being like 45 minutes long. So it's going to get broken up into like 2 or 3 chunks. I've got the one's already done, one's processing on my computer back home right now, and I'll probably turn the rest of it into a third one. And And I've been going back to the prior podcasts to try to find things that were kind of interesting that can fit in like a 10 to 20 minute at most time frame. So, yes, that's what those are. Or if you do watch the podcast, be like, man, I don't have time to watch all 2 hours of it. I try to find what I think are the interesting ones. Because some of this is us just kind of going through the news, but others, there's some discussion to be had, some comments, and that's what I'm trying to throw out there. So, yeah, that's. Oh, I've also filmed, but haven't yet uploaded the Dragonlance book review for the latest Dragonlance novel, and also a BattleTech unboxing video. I'm going to tinker with the audio for one section, but it should be done probably up next week. So there are some other videos already done, just stockpiling. So yeah, if we do get to the point that we actually have enough regular videos, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the clips on. We'll release 2 videos a day. One will be the regular video, one will be a clip. So we'll just have to see how that goes. And we might also do that if we make just a super long regular video and there's an interesting section. We'll probably do that there too. But we'll see how that goes. So I think that's most of the channel information for this podcast. So on to our first segment, the movies. I haven't watched any movies lately.
I did, and I don't know if I'm, you know. So I've had a lady friend that I was trying to pick a movie out to watch, and
Ollie Shore movie again?
no, it was not a Pauly Shore movie this
Damn.
time. Um, we've been kind of on the Disney kick, watching some of the Disney movies, and honestly, the one we watched, I was not as like I think it had good things going for it, but I don't know. I found it kind of a mess of a way that they told the story, and that was Encanto.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It I don't know.
That one kind of centers around like the Day of the Dead or something.
No, that's Coco.
Okay, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. And I'm not saying it wasn't bad. Like Encanto looked great, and one I was like, it's a South American thing, so like I expected a lot of the
Is that the one where like everyone has powers?
yes,
Okay, I still haven't seen that one either, but the
yes,
trailers. I got you.
but okay, so
I think it has a Lego set.
so a few like the first few musical numbers, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. Like it like the that's the kind of the music I expected. It fit the theme of the movie, but then there was a couple of songs. It's like, well, this doesn't really fit at all. Like it's like hip hop and stuff, and it's just like, no, I don't know. It just seemed out of place. But aside from the music, I don't know. It was just I found it kind of a mess and a little bit hard to follow. I mean, I say hard to follow, but like I don't know. I didn't like how everything kind of flowed with it. It was just a little bit different.
Heard a crunching noise. To make sure it wasn't like something critical.
There was a cat in there probably eating out of the food bowl.
Yeah, I want to make sure there wasn't a cat in here eating the wires.
Yeah, the wires are off the ground. We should be good. But no, I was gonna say that was the movie that I watched, and I don't know. Like I said, it wasn't bad, but it's definitely not one of the better ones. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure I have watched a movie since the last one. Like I know I watched the '90s color remake of Night of the Living Dead, which is excellent, by the way. You should watch the original if you're curious, but I would divert people towards the color remake. I think it's the better movie. And I hate saying that because I love Romero's movies. Love Romero. It's gone, but uh, get around to that in a video someday. Franchise fixes on the zombie saga from Romero. But
there's only one Romero I know. It's John Romero for Doom.
oh,
He's
is he the Doom guy?
well, he is in Doom 2. He is the head in the Icon of Sin.
Oh, is he like one of the creators or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because in the end of Doom 2, it's got a bit of dialogue that's reversed. reversed audio. When you reverse the audio, it says to kill me or to win the game, you must kill me, John Romero. And then yes, that's when you're shooting rockets into the head. You're actually shooting John Romero's head on a stake.
Hmm.
But he's also was kind of notorious around id when he was working there, and then he went off and developed his own company, and then made one of the worst games of all time called Daikatana.
I've heard of this game.
So, well, and I don't know. I've not played it, so I can't say it is the worst game of all time. I don't have it. Somebody wants to send it to me, I'll review it.
I really expect you to say Caesar Romero, the Joker
Yes.
from the
Yes.
Adam West Batman
To the
TV
point
series.
where he wouldn't even shave his mustache.
Yes, which shows up on the Lego figure of him too.
As it should.
It's got a little like speckled line right there where his mustache would be.
As it should.
Yeah. You know what? And growing up, I never even noticed that. Watching the reruns of the show, because obviously I didn't grow up in the '60s when the show debuted, but in the '80s, or early '90s, it was on TV. Yeah, that's great. That show is awesome. Everyone should watch it. The movie's spectacular. But yeah, so here in movie news, there is a potential end to the writer's strike. It would appear that they have reached a tentative agreement with the head of the union. Heads, I don't know what the organizational structure is there. Now, we don't know all the details because they haven't given all the people in the union the details yet because they have to vote whether or not they're going to go through with it. And but from what has come out, it seems like it's kind of a mixed bag. So on the one hand, on the AI front, if I understand correctly, the studios can't use AI to write scripts, but the writers can. So I don't know how that works from like the studios not just being like, okay, that's what we'll do. By the way, meet the new writing team we just hired. That's going to use AI to write the script. Like it seems like it's like AI writing the script with a middleman now instead of just the studios themselves doing it. But on the flip side, it's probably also just a concession from the studios because the studios would never know if an AI was writing it because the studios are run by talentless hacks who'd have no idea what good dialogue actually sounds like. So they wouldn't know that a robot wrote that. What are they going to do? Now employ yet another person to run it through a scanner to see if an AI wrote it? Because there's programs that can determine reasonably certain if an AI wrote it. And all a writer has to do is move some dialogue around. And if they're worth anything at all, they're going to change aspects of what the AI writes anyway. Because I've been playing around with Chat GPT. I know what that thing can produce. It can write some things way better than I can. I don't know how creative it is, though. Still testing that out. Look out for that Amish romance novel any day now. Dead serious on that, by the way. So, so there's that. But one of the other terms, this is to me, I just find this completely ridiculous. I don't know if you have those of you out there have any idea how this works now, but there's very rarely a writer on anything anymore. There are now teams of writers, and I don't mean like two people that know each other and are like a buddy comedy tour. I mean like 5 or 6 people in a room trying to write like one movie, which is why most movies suck because that's a too many chefs in the kitchen problem.
Yeah, you lose a creative vision over the whole thing.
Right. And so the writers have won potentially if they go for this to have more writers in the room and to have like a standard, like if a show is going to have below 6 episodes, it's going to have this many. If it's going to have more than 6, they've got to bring in 2 more writers and so on and so on. Now, this might lead to a better creative environment because the studios are going to realize, well, we're just not going to greenlight every little piece of crap that comes to the door. We're going to greenlight things that actually sound good because it's going to cost us more money to produce them now. So we'll have to see how that pans out, but that's part of it. Now it remains to be seen if the writers do accept this. Are they going to stand by their verbal commitment to stand with the actors? Because the actors largely came out, as near as I can tell, because the writers were already on strike. because the actors have the greater leverage here. And so if the writers are kind of like, yeah, we're going back to work, the actors can be like, well, we're never doing this for you guys ever again, you know. So we'll see how that pans out. And kind of related to all this, I think it's the Actors Guild has okayed a strike for voice actors and presumably motion capture actors for the video game industry. So I don't know if that's going to get sucked up into all this too. It might lead to the Video Game Industry Writers Guild to be like, well, we're going on strike too, guys. And this is a problem with strikes in general. If they go on long enough, you can have strike contagion. And total side note, little real world, because I don't consider this the real world because these people have been on strike for 6 months and nobody's noticed. Um, the auto workers strike at the moment. This is being recorded. That's one of the fears people have, is that other industries are going to look at that and be like, hey, I want to get mine too, and make their move. And too many strikes at any one point in time, and well, things start getting dicey real quickly as far as production. So, but anyway, so there's potential light at the end of the tunnel. It's not a train light. Uh, the headlamp on the train that's going to hit you, or the red of Darth Vader's lightsaber, as the meme goes.
Well, there was something actually I did want to bring up because you were talking about the whole AI. So right now on YouTube, there is a big thing about one YouTuber in particular who released like a slew of videos where he had AI write the script, AI spoke it, and then had an avatar of him, like a obviously computer generated avatar, do all the stuff. And the guy's name was Quebblecop. Well, later he released Quebblecop's done with AI. Well, it was an attempt to make a clickbait title, because he says, I'm done with that type of AI. Here's my new AI, and the entire video where it looked like him was not him. It was completely 100% AI. AI wrote it. AI made his avatar, which was actually him, talk, and you could always tell there was something off because like his lips didn't sync with the audio. That's because, and the idea is that he's planning on selling this technology out to other YouTubers who want to have this thing write all of their videos.
Yeah, I mean, that's not surprising because we've got several content creators that you never see their face. I mean, that's obviously next level.
Yeah.
But they write the script. Presumably, they write the script, and then they have a machine read it. Because you can tell it's not a human voice with some of this too. Yeah, that's definitely like that's a next level thing right there.
No, and being able to sell it, and I think some of the problem is now you're going to get content that just isn't interesting to anybody because it's just whatever random, not that it can't be good, but you're taking like the entire human element out of these.
Well, did I tell you about the video I came across where there is a program? I haven't filled with it yet, where you literally tell it like, okay, give me a top 10 list of places for people to move to remote work, or something like that. And it'll search the internet, find your top 10, get you your article and everything, and then you're like, okay, now I want you to read this, and I want you to do it like in the sound of a British gentleman, and they have a voice file to sound like some British guy.
Yeah.
And they're like, and put some pictures to it. And about 5 minutes worth of work on your end, about 15 minutes later, you have a YouTube video. And it's all ready just to upload. And it's got like it's already done all the it fills in all the things on YouTube for you too, I think. And so this guy was just like, here we go. And the comments are like, great. So now we're going to get 20% of YouTube is just going to be these same few topics that all the AI bots are talking about. But the problem is they're probably actually going to get traffic.
Oh, yeah. No.
Which means that advertisers will advertise on them. And so
it's a similar thing that happened a few years ago with YouTube Kids, where they would take this, like, there was like a particular song they would take, and they would just keep swapping out, like, because the song would mention a character, and all they would do is they would take that character's name and swap it with another character, and then have another generated video to go along with it. And they just kept flooding the market with all of these videos. And so it's like the exact same song, one piece of dialogue changed, and the different, video that's all computer, like the computer, it's all computer generated and all of that. And they just flooded the market with it for YouTube Kids. And
Well, don't get me wrong. If I think this can be monetized, it won't be on this channel. It'll be on a different channel that you guys won't know about it. But if we all of a sudden have better equipment, like that might have panned out.
well,
I'm,
like,
I'm I'm not above gaming the system.
well, that's an awfully nice suit you have there.
Oh, maybe I can be like is it Bob Menendez from New Jersey? I can sew a bunch of money in the pockets of my suits, try to hide them. Oh man, what a stupid criminal! Like I don't even mean like any kind of political manner. Like I'd be saying that no matter what political affiliation this individual was, but like was like withdrawing all kinds of cash and literally is like sewing it into like the pockets of his like windbreakers and suits and everything. Had gold bars and stuff just laying around his house. So they've got all kinds of fingerprints from all this stuff. And it's like, gee, I wonder where you got this. Like these fingerprints match the people that we claim gave them to you for influence. Like looking up the spot value of gold one day, like when he was supposed to be getting these gold bars and stuff. Ridiculous. Oh well, see how it goes there. But no, that's just so that's dumb criminal stuff right there. It's like the go to rob a gas station and having to flee because the owner like starts shooting at you, and then leaving your car parked there that's registered in your name and everything, and like them being surprised when the police managed to find you.
How'd you know it was me?
Yeah.
Ah,
Anyway, well, divergence on that one. So, anything else on the movie front, Jim?
nope.
All right. So on the books, it's going to be a little bit of divergences from the normal stuff. I'm actually going to talk about comic books today a little bit. So I was listening to something earlier today, kind of talking about Robert Kirkman, who, for those of you who don't know that name, he is the gentleman who writes The Walking Dead and Invincible, both of which have become very successful properties in the video front. The Walking Dead ended up having, I don't know, like 11 seasons, and has thus far had two spin offs. And then Invincible has one season on Amazon with definitely another one on the way. And is talking about him quite a bit, and I found that interesting. But it was something that they said at one point that kind of sparked what I'm about to talk about. Uh, he mentioned that he preferred the freedom of writing his own books versus being bound to the not just the continuity of Marvel and DC books, because he did briefly also work for Marvel. He works for Image now. Well, actually, I think he's part owner of Image now. If the story was correct, he's the first creator that wasn't there at the founding that they said, "Hey, I want to come aboard as one of the owners." And it was Todd McFarlane that was like, as Todd McFarlane is basically the heavyweight there.
Yeah.
And it was actually quite a ways into publishing one of those two books that he before he even met Todd McFarlane. So he got there, and Todd he's at a show and asked him, "Would you quit working for Marvel and DC?" And he's like, "Why would I do that?" He goes, "So you can be one of the owners of Image." And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And so one of the things he didn't like, if I understood it correctly, is that Marvel and DC have this little problem of they have to continually reset to the status quo, or at least they feel like they do. I personally don't think they do, but they feel like they do, and that's a problem. And it's not a barrier to entry to comics. They actually do it so it's easier to read comics, but it makes it for a lot of people that do end up reading them. They quit eventually because they feel like there's no stakes. Because people don't stay dead and things like that. and except for Uncle Ben. Used to be Uncle Ben and Bucky, but then someone came up with a dynamite story to bring Bucky back as the Winter Soldier, and well, now it's just Uncle Ben. So, that's a problem, because the characters can't. They can only grow so much, and that's from a narrative perspective, that's a problem.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes sense to a point because if you killed Spider-Man off, I'm pretty sure there's gonna be some upset children
Oh,
that'll.
sure, yeah, okay, like Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, some random sampling of the X-Men. Like, sure, we know they're probably not ever really going to die, or if they do, they're going to come back. But it's more like, Spider-Man killed off Gwen Stacy, and she is still dead in the 616 universe. Like, has been for quite a while. Hell, Norman Osborn was dead like one issue later, and he stayed dead until the Clone Saga, the very end of the Clone Saga. So, like, I mean, these characters, they can't, like, people always joke about Jean Grey coming back to life. Her most recent death, I think she was dead for nearly 20 years in real time. Like, I think that's to the point that we can stop joking about her constantly coming back to life.
Well, I think Barry Allen was like 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, like, characters can stay dead for a long time in comics. It's just to your point, though, it's not going to be Spider-Man. Well, no, it's not going to be.
Yeah.
But it can be people around Spider-Man. It can be some of his villains. You can keep them dead for a long time, and then it's impactful when they do come back.
Like I said, and normally they do it if they're gonna kill off a hero, they're gonna do it with you know uh, a side character or one that's not as popular. One that comes to mind is Ted Cord.
Man, why you got to be talking about Ted Cord like that, Jim? He was awesome. He did not deserve to be shot.
No, he. I'm not saying.
Maxwell Lord is an asshole.
I'm not saying that he did deserve, and I'm not saying that it wasn't a good character because from what I've gathered, the Blue Beetle and Booster Gold comic was actually pretty decent.
Given to understand it was.
And I think there is actually at least one point in time where Booster Gold goes back in time and saves, or goes to try to save him, but then Ted Cord kind of goes, "No, this is what it's supposed to happen."
I couldn't tell you about that for sure, but I can tell you that in the aftermath of that, because that was like the very beginning of Infinite Crisis, is right around when, like, the build up to Infinite Crisis when that happens. And it's like one of the saddest things ever whenever he goes to the Justice League and tries to get any of them to give a damn about it. And, like, Batman just blows him off like he's a chump. Superman, if I recall correctly, is like, we're too busy. Wonder Woman's the only one who's like, no, Booster, like, Ted was one of us. Like, we're going to find who did this. And she does. And she snaps his neck. Like, she kills him, like, literally spins his head around.
Oh, yeah, and it was all recorded for everyone to see. And everybody's just like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, it had some fallout, but, like, it was just like, so tragic. You're just sitting there like, I know Booster Gold's a goof off, but, like, Ted Cord, like, contributed. Yeah. Like, the fact the rest of them were just like, yeah, fuck Ted. It's like, hold on here. Like, he was one of you guys. I know you aren't the Avengers, but damn it, avenge him.
Yeah, one of the worst, I say worst for most people, storylines is where Booster Gold goes back in time to save Bruce Wayne's parents from dying. And that turns into a terrible time for everybody because, Batman does not exist. It's just Bruce Wayne, the spoiled whatever.
Yeah. And it's like Lex Luthor 2.0, but like not a villain, hopefully.
Well, and Selena Kyle is actually insane. She actually thinks she's a cat.
Sure.
So yeah, it's an interesting one. I believe it's called The Gift. I think I'd have to see if I could find that. Or I watched the video on it because I don't. The only comics I have is a stack of comics that my dad gave me that were all like 12 cents each, on the tag. At some point, we need to go through some of those and just, talk about them because that's back when the covers usually had nothing to do with what's actually inside the.
Yeah, there's a whole era of DC comics like that with largely Superman covers, or Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, And there's a whole website, at least there used to be, called superdickery.com because Superman is a super dick to everybody on those covers. Like, there's one where he's like heat visioning his way into the Batcave, and Batman's like, "Superman, what are you doing?" There's a whole bunch of reporters, but he's like, Let me show you Batman's true identity." There's one where Superman and Batman are having Robin and Jimmy Olsen dig their own graves. And Jimmy Olsen's like, "You're not going to kill me, are you, Superman?" He goes, "No, I'm not going to. Batman's going to shoot you guys, and Batman's got a Tommy gun." It's just like, or Lois is dressed up as a Mexican general, and Superman, she's ordering him to shoot Jimmy Olsen, who's like tied to a pole and blindfolded like he's going to be executed, you know.
Well, I can say, and from what I gathered, he's even a bigger a hole to Lois.
Well, there's an issue where he is actually a colossal dictator in the book and not just on
Yeah.
the cover, where he basically like threatens her and harasses her and all kinds of things, like as a masked vigilante, just to make sure that she doesn't. I think it's so that she doesn't know who he is, or they won't tell people who he is. It's one of the two, and it's just like gosh golly, there, Superman, you can tell you really love this woman.
Well,
Like threatening her with death if she'll talk, and and at the end he's like, well, I guess she's not going to talk. All right, it's like, yeah,
well,
oh great, Superman, real moral, upstanding uh, role model you are there.
I seen one where it was I think they were in space or whatever, and he was like getting ready to rip her like tether or the
Well, that
line.
sounds about right. I know there are two separate covers where he seems to have declared himself ruler of the world, and apparently, as part of that, is wearing a giant Pope-style hat. But yeah. Anyway, part of what I was going to get to here is that's one of the reasons why I like the like alternate universe stories, because they're allowed to have consequences. I mean, ultimately, they aren't consequences because they're not going to follow up on it. But within the story itself, they're allowed to kill characters willy nilly in alternate universe stuff. And so, I think you get better stories that way. And it's, I don't know, I always thought it was kind of paradoxical. Like those stories wouldn't exist without the decades of continuity, and they wouldn't have the impact without the decades of continuity. But I still feel like they're better stories. Like Superman Red Sun is an excellent Superman story, but it is ultimately an Elseworld story. Kingdom Come is an excellent story, largely a Superman story, also an Elseworld story. The Age of Apocalypse is an excellent X-Men story, but it's an alternate reality story. And so you get these more limited stories uh, where things are allowed to play out like you think they probably actually should, with a high body count.
So I've just unfortunately you can't see it on camera, but I've got one of my cats pretty much snoring next to me over here. So if you do follow us on the Geek Cabal Facebook page, I did post our filming assistant.
Like most filming assistants.
Well, the thing is that we probably get a lot more viewers if we're like, hey, look at cats, because cat videos and all
Oh
of
yeah,
that.
yeah. That's like, I hate to say this, but I have actually been trying to consider how we can make shorts that are going to, get some viewership that probably have nothing to do with anything we talk about.
AI generated.
No. Although that's not a bad idea. Let me work on that. But no, like I don't know, like just a handful of ideas I've had of just random fake, well, hopefully fake conspiracy theories.
Well, I have one that when we get to our miscellaneous, I'll bring up. But again, it involves AI.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm full up front. It is a conspiracy theory. It's not something that I would believe in or anything like that. But I could see where they do get some valid
Oh,
points.
please don't tell me it's the birds have all been replaced with robots.
No. It's I guess lately Britney Spears has been acting like,
Oh right, yeah, you sent me the okay.
yeah, and and the thing is like I like '90s pop culture. I think can fit perfectly onto this channel. So, but no, there's a conspiracy because she's been acting like off her rocker that at some point, that somebody had replaced her with AI, and that's why she's acting so weird. is that she's not actually there. It's just AI filming stuff, and like people have analyzed these videos and all of this stuff, and it's like I could see that being done. I mean, like I said, there's a with deep fakes and everything else, and actually after seeing that thing with Quebblecop, and again, don't ask me how to spell that because it begins with a K. That's all I know.
Ask
And
Chat GPT.
um, you can make somebody look realistic and have them, especially if you don't have them talking, and have an entire thing where they, do whatever, and you would never know the difference. So, and for most of her videos, she doesn't talk; she just dances. And I seen one earlier today. It is just a still shot of her dancing with knives.
Yeah.
And I think there was a thing where somebody was, because I think they had the caption where it used to be "Free Britney." Now someone's like, "No, someone unfree Britney because she's gone crazy." Um, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, if anybody that's having mental whatever, they need to get help, and that's not a funny topic, but it's. I guess that's the price of fame and everything. People just go off the deep end.
Well, it happens.
Well, that's like the one guy from Lincoln Park when I found out he had the offed himself, the unalived himself, as I hear them say on YouTube a lot because you can't say anything negative. So unalived himself, and you just like hell. I would. It's like money, married, kids, all that stuff. Same thing with the Green Ranger.
Oh no, I heard something wildly different about the Lincoln Park guy.
What? Hopefully, it
Uh,
wasn't a Kurt Cobain incident.
no. Well, let's just say it involved him. It involved him not being the one who unalived him,
Well, that's
and that he uncovered some unsavory things about his fellow Hollywood types. The kinds of things that say
that would make more.
Jim Caviezel's been talking about lately.
It would make more sense. Because I'm pretty sure, like I said, my theory on the whole Kurt Cobain thing is that he definitely had some assistance with him unaliving himself.
Yeah.
That's just again, that's conspiracy theory. I don't know. No proof of it, but just
Yeah. Back to comics. That's pretty much all I was going to say on the. Oh
no.
no, sorry, it wasn't. Hang on, hold that thought, Jim. There actually is a Marvel book. There was one for Spider-Man, and there's a recent one for the Fantastic Four that actually does explore the concept of, well, what if time actually did matter to these characters? And so, like, Spider-Man's called Spider-Man Life Story. The first issue is in the '60s, then the '70s, and the '80s, and each one you see a chunk of Parker's life in each decade, and time is actually passing. So by the last issue, he's an old man, and like Miles Morales is there, and that one was really interesting because like the other things that were going on, because I think at the end of the first one, Flash Thompson gets drafted to go to Vietnam, and it's either in that one or the next one. You see that Captain America has turned against the U.S. military, and Stark's the one funneling all the weapons to the military. And Captain America is not so much fighting for the Viet Cong, but he's fighting to stop soldiers doing not so savory things to them. And then it's by the '80s and '90s you find out there was the Civil War between the two of them, and I think they both got it. And as in like they were unalived. And you see like he interacts with Mr. Fantastic at one point. You hear that he's like divorced the Invisible Woman and stuff, and it's very interesting. And so the next one is the Fantastic Four, and I haven't read it yet. I'm waiting for it to be in a collected format. But yeah, so I'm really hoping we see it with some of the other characters too. Particularly like Iron Man, the Avengers, and the X-Men probably. Do that for Wolverine, but you got to start in like the 1800s.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I seen in the news that Daniel Radcliffe is going to be in Deadpool 3 as a secret role. And some people are speculating that he's going to be the MCU Wolverine.
Maybe.
The thing is he has the height.
Yeah.
Daniel Radcliffe is short.
Yeah. For those of you who are not comic book fans, Wolverine's like 5 foot nothing in the comics. I think he's technically 5'3". But yeah, he's supposed to be very short.
He still wasn't the shortest on Alpha Flight.
Well,
that'd be Puck.
sure. When you have Puck on the team, like he throws the curve off a little bit, but yeah, no. Wolverine is supposed to be very short, and he has like a whole like complex about that too. That's why some people were like, "Man, you know, who should play him in the movies, Bob Hoskins, because he's short and he doesn't look good." Like once you see him, you're like, "Yeah, I see why Gene picked Cyclops like all day, every day." Like, of course, Cyclops is like 6'2". You know, it looks kind of like Tom Brady. Like, of course, you know, it's like versus this short, ugly man who smokes cigars and drinks way too much and probably curses a lot.
And has a lot of questionable relationships, regardless.
Yes, yes,
I guess. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get that he is, pretty much ageless for the most part. He doesn't age very much, so I don't expect him to be like, "Well, I got to find someone that's,
yeah,
200 years old." I
yeah.
mean,
I don't hold that against him because like I don't hold it against Apocalypse. He's 5,000 years old and has had God knows how many relationships, and not all with women. The Marvel clarified that just to be throw that out there. Which I mean, not to make a personal statement on the matter, but like I suppose if you're 5,000 years old and you're a shapeshifter, at some point you're gonna get curious. So
would you say bi-curious?
maybe.
Uh,
But
yeah.
yeah, like in the more recent issues, like he clearly had some kind of relationship with Richter, and presumably Richter was rocking his world though with those powers.
But no,
Oh, I shouldn't joke about that, but that's but yes, like older characters like that, yeah, it looks weird when he's like hanging out with Jubilee but I don't think there was ever any implication in
no.
here with Jubilee or Shadowcat. That was more of like a mentor type thing. But to your point, like he'd have to sleep with like Celine or somebody, and then she'd be the one robbing the cradle because she's older than Apocalypse. So actually, I'm pretty sure if she slept with Apocalypse, she'd still be robbing the cradle, given how much older she is. Yeah, it's whenever you deal with characters that are millennia old, like they're not just gonna be like, well, I guess I'm celibate now. It's like, no, let's be real, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, but there should be at least a line that you draw, and I think sometimes Wolverine. There was definitely times where he's probably at least flirting with girls that were not of age, and in the
Yeah,
comics.
well,
And this kind of the scary part is that sometimes you have to think it's these comic book writers that are kind of living out.
oh, people have definitely put forth the idea
Give me some more water.
that some of the things we see in comics is essentially these people's fantasies playing out. And to continue while Jim's gone here for a moment, you see that I see that criticism leveled a lot at Chris Claremont because there's definitely some interesting things that happen in the Claremont run, and I don't know if that's down to Chris Claremont or if that's down to like just the norms at the time. So it's hard to say.
Well, yeah, well, like the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver relationship.
That's from the Ultimates.
I know,
That's where people were just like, "Hey, let's do all the wacky stuff we always kind of wanted to do." I guess over in Marvel in the 616, and it's like, well, why did you want to do that?
why are they playing Sweet Home Alabama?
Like, did you guys read like Game of Thrones and are like, "Hey, that's a really awesome idea"? I mean, hell, that's seeped into BattleTech. There's at least one character, Denai, Laos, and Treya.
Well, I mean,
Her parents are brother and sister.
well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, that was like there's
There were certain
European
rulers that did that.
yes, and there was obviously you know after so many generations were obviously signs of total inbreeding.
Well, that was cousins primarily.
Yeah.
Now the Egyptians, it was occasionally brother and sister. Uh, as far as the Ptolemaic dynasty, the one that the Cleopatra is from, which her actual name I believe is Cleopatra the Fourth, but she initially married her brother. So then she had a kid with Caesar. Then Caesar got killed by the Senate. Those backstabbing bastards.
Well, at least well,
Jokes on them. They did that to stop the rise of an emperor. Well, Augustus was like, nope, you just made it a different guy. Congratulations.
oh, that is some interesting history. But no, as soon as you said the Senate, I just imagine Palpatine doing
I am the Senate.
720.
Not yet. In about 5 seconds it will be. I'll warm up with Egg and Kalar over here. Hello, Kit Fisto, you're down.
You know, though, I mean, all credit to those four Jedi's. I don't think they were expecting the man to do a 720
Well,
from
I mean,
from
you
a.
know, like if I were in the Star Wars universe, on the list of things I would expect when I woke up that morning, a, a, an advanced age individual suddenly launching into a 720 at me with a lightsaber would be pretty damn low on the list.
Oh, good stuff though.
But yeah, hell, we'll come back to the Roman Empire here at the end, by the way. But yeah, so like I said, that's I like those things in comics, and I wish I'd see
Oh,
more of them.
that's funny because there's a story. You're talking about the Roman Empire. I'll have to remember that one because there's definitely some stories that I've read or not read about, watched stuff on at some point. That's interesting.
Possibly related to what I'm going to say.
All right.
So moving on from the comic stuff, and if you guys liked any of that, let us know because I can regale you with tales of the X-Men all day long.
Check out our video on the X Men. All of the videos on the X Men. We have multiple, I believe.
Yeah, I think I put that one up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, yeah, because that was the prototype to the podcast concept. So on to gaming. I don't know if this is actually out yet, but the Phandelver adventure for Dungeons and Dragons has like an expanded version, and I don't know the actual name of it right off the top of my head. But the miniatures, there's going to be a miniature set for it, and so that's how I've been looking at it. And there's a hell of a lot of interesting miniatures. This is one of the only sets that actually has more than one Mind Flayer in it. It has 5 so far. So if you're just wanting just a Mind Flayer, like, and you're for some reason only buying random boosters, this is probably the set for you. But it's also got psionic goblins, some kind of weird flesh meld thing, uh, infected villagers, and a bunch of other a new giant spider, some drow. There's a bunch of good pieces in this set, and so I'm thinking at some point I'm going to check out this adventure because that's where our campaign is if it ever gets back on track and not from the adventure, but I took some ideas from the adventure. But this adventure might give me some ideas of where to go, or at least make things sound a little more coherent. So, plus, I definitely want to check out the miniatures. So,
Oh,
but
I said I had one interesting thing that I picked up for gaming. It wasn't a game. It was a solution to a huge problem. So in my Genesis Model 3 video, I had my monstrosity of my Sega Genesis, Sega CD, and 32X. And the one complaint I had with that is that it takes 3 power adapters. Each console has its own power adapter. And oddly enough, the video from the Sega Genesis has to have a separate cable going to the video port on the back of the 32X. So you have cables everywhere, 3 power supplies. Found on Amazon where you can order a power supply that can power all 3 of them in one plug.
is it made like specifically
It's
for that?
sitting right there on my couch. Yes, it's made specifically for that.
Hmm.
And they call it the Power of Tower, or Tower of Power, if I could speak right. The Tower of Power.
Well, that's interesting.
So yeah, so like if I ever had my setup where I want to have at least a couple consoles hooked up, that one in particular, because it plays all of the games. It plays,
Right.
the Genesis, 32X, Sega CD, and then what I do not have any of right now, which are the Sega CD 32X, where you have to have both attachments. I need to talk about that console just at some point in detail, just because the ridiculousness that comes out of it, and I know people have done it. I mean, hell, the reason that I built mine was because I watched the Angry Video Game Nerd talk about all of the components on it. So it's been talked to death out there, but
Not by you, Jim.
the thing is that just the amount of stuff. I mean, like the cost of that. You know, yeah, you had like stuff like the 3DO. I think on release was like 700. $700, 799, something like that, which is like $1,200 in today's money. Ridiculous. I mean, that the Sega CD was not, or the Sega Genesis Sega CD 32X was not much better because you had the Genesis, which was about $100. 32X when it came out was like 125, and the Sega CD was even more than that. And I'd have to look up the numbers on that, but uh, it was still an expensive thing to try to acquire all that, and none of the games were really that great. I mean, there are some good ones. Don't get me wrong. I bought one um, for the Sega CD specifically because one of my favorite games that I rented all the time for my Super Nintendo was Out of This World. It was a what do they call it? Rotoscoped. It was they actually had an actor wearing the dots and stuff to actually act out the stuff, and it's you know as close to 3D polygons as you're getting in is a non Super FX chip game.
Yeah.
Very good storytelling, very good action. I mean, today, if a game like that was released, it would do really well. They made a sequel to it, which is not really technically a sequel. There's two characters. You play as the human in Out of This World. Well, there's an alien that helps you out. And the sequel to that is called Heart of the Alien, which is you playing as the alien doing his thing while the human's doing his thing. So it takes place at the exact same time, kind of thing. And while it's not as good as Out of This World, it's still pretty good, and it actually contains Out of This World on the disc as well. So you get actually two games in one with it. So that is one though I would like to do a let's play on, just because I've never beaten it all the way through. I've beaten it up to one point, and from that point forward, I've been able to beat it. But there's a section in the middle I don't know how to transition. Like if I put the code in for after it, I can beat the game all the way through. There's just one section in the middle where you're down in the caverns. So if anybody knows Out of This World, yeah, when you're down in the caverns, I don't know how you get out of the caverns, like where where the dam is and everything. So just like most dam levels, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles dam level in the NES, where you have to unwire the bombs and they have the electric plants you have to swim through.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I trust you.
It's also a pain in the ass.
Yeah, probably.
Yes, very much so. But the whole Let's Play thing. I think that's just going to take a little bit. I'm going to wait probably till maybe tax time and get the equipment loaded up for that, because I want to get good equipment and make sure we have a good setup for it. Rearrange the living room a little bit.
Well, Jim, if those AI videos take off, you might not have to wait that long.
If only my startup Bitcoin started making money.
Oh, don't worry. I've got all kinds of other ideas. We're gonna design AI shirt designs. We're gonna sell on Redbubble, and I don't know. I've got a few other ideas, like the Amish romance novel I'm working on.
Well, I guess also we need to see if I wonder what the interest would be if we actually started making Geek Cabal merchandise.
Well, that would actually be very easy for us to do.
Yeah, because
we just upload the design to Redbubble. So
yeah, and then they would produce the shirts. But we look at getting the logo.
We got to adjust the logo a little bit, and I have to make sure that we have it in whatever resolution I need to upload it onto there. So I've got to talk to Brad and see if he still has the information on the guy who designed our current logo. Hopefully he's still around.
Well, I say
he was in a rather volatile area of the world.
Well, I think the next time we go to any sort of convention, if we have the shirts.
Yeah, like I want to. If we're going to do that, I would like to remind me when we're done recording. I'm going to start talking to Brad about that now, so that at least by the end of the year we have it up and running. Like hopefully before then, but you know.
Yeah, we also need to find a time to get the whole crew in here to.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we're working on the long distance. We've got this part of the setup now. It's just a matter of, can we wire it all into a laptop? Does that run smoothly? And if we can do that, then I'm told that Discord is a free way to do this. So, or relatively cheap way to do this, and we can load we put Discord on my laptop, put Discord on Brad's phone, do the server, get them together. There's a plug-in. They don't call them plugins on Discord; they call them something else. To record the video.
Well, and that I think
upload.
That, and I think the great thing would be then we can actually get some guests on the show to.
Yeah.
If we call this a show, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
shit show maybe.
I do actually have an offer on that front, by the way. Once we get it all sorted out, someone that was trying to get it so we could meet up with him at Gen Con. That's a dice company, and I told him we don't have a huge viewing or anything, but they said they'd still be willing to, if we could work out the tech side, So otherwise, I'll just email them earlier so we can meet up with them at Gen Con next year. But they produce some dice that that I've bought a lot of. So has Chad. They're pretty cool dice. They're the one group I've mentioned before that like a couple of Kickstarters have actually been delivered on time. Theirs.
All right.
So yeah. So for this is a little side note for those of you who have not ever dealt with Kickstarter, whatever they tell you as far as the time, forget it. That's a if the stars and planets all align and occasionally, maybe God himself comes down and is like decrees that will happen, then it might happen. You know, but other than that scenario, it's going to be later. Could be a month, could be 6 months, could be 2 years. I'm still waiting on dice I bought 2 years ago. Not from them, by the way. And they're in the U.S. finally. Like they've shown, they're in their warehouse, they're being sorted and everything. I should have them in the next month or two. And if I do, I'm definitely going to show them off on here because they were kind of expensive. But
Well, that's like I ordered some gifts on Amazon, some hoodies for Owen, and two of the things came in next day. One's November 10th, and I'm like, it's a hoodie. I'm assuming they print them probably on demand or whatever.
well, I know they do it with books. They have a print-on-demand service, and I've fiddled around with that a little bit. Which, by the way, once the Amish romance novel is done, that's where it's going to be distributed. It's going to be on Amazon.
You're not going to go to the Amish community and distribute it.
No, it's non-Amish that are all about it. I swear to God, I read this somewhere about a year ago that number one, romance novels are a huge chunk of the book business, and like Amish romance is like a booming part of that. And at the time, I was like, this is absurd. But after seeing what Chat GPT was able to put out for chapter one, like, all right, I get it. So yeah, we'll see how that actually goes. That's more of a proof of concept. I actually have a couple things that I've written up several chapters, and the plan will be feed that into Chat GPT and be like, okay, now do X, Y, and Z to this, so I don't have to re-edit them myself, and then have it give me some suggestions because I'm kind of stuck on where to go. Like I've got an endpoint in mind, but it's the between where I am and the endpoint that's the problem. So, and I know my writing could use some work.
All right, what else do we got?
Let's see here. All right, streaming, which essentially means time to talk about Star Wars and Ahsoka. Okay, so I can't say a whole lot about Episode 7.
I haven't seen it
because Jim has not watched it yet. However, by the time this video you're watching right now or listening to is up, we will probably already have a video about this episode. So, what can I say? First of all, I thought it was a decent episode. Things do happen. Not as many of them as should be happening in the second to last episode of the season. Like, I can safely say, stand by for season 2. There's certain things that I just really, really wish they would get to the damn point on. And I don't think there's going to be major spoilers, but like Balin, for instance, still don't know what the hell he's doing. He does have a moment though, and it's a good one, and like it's going to be talked about whenever we do the video for the show. Shin gets a little bit more screen time too, which is nice. Ron, in my opinion, his, I wouldn't say tactical genius, but at least tactical competence is displayed, contrary to what I've seen other people screaming at their video cameras about. These are people that I'm pretty sure couldn't tactic their way out of a paper bag based on other comments they've made. So they wouldn't know good tactics if I bit them in the ass.
I was going to say, I was watching a couple of other Star Wars YouTubers, and I did at least hear one refer to him as Elon Thrawn.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like Elon Musk. I mean, he does with the makeup.
Which made me wonder, I doubt anybody was watching our show or watching our thing to get, and then he's like, oh, I like Elon Thrawn. And
Yeah.
if they did, and if you did hear that on this show,
Let
let
us
us
know.
know. Because that one I was Generation Tech.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen any of their episodes. They're also pretty good. They kind of go more into, um, I don't know. I can say they're a little different than Eckhart's Ladder in the way that they present their stuff, which is nice because I mean it's good to get the different points of view. But
Yeah. Well, I don't think this is a spoiler at all because they said it in the last episode, but we do get to see those rock people moving their little funky mobile homes around. Apparently, they've got their equivalent of repulsors. I didn't see wheels on any of them, so that was kind of interesting. Uh, I, I I would like to believe I'm not one of the people that falls for like cutesy stuff in Star Wars, but I do kind of want to see at least one Lego set of one of these little houses and these rock people.
I
That
can
that would be kind of nice. Then again, I'm also one of the people that was like, the porgs are kind of cute. I can't believe Chewbacca just ate one of them in front of the others.
as a
But like, that's it. I didn't go out and buy a porg. I don't have like a stuffed porg or like a or anything like that.
or the one set that was like a giant porg.
Yeah, I don't have that. And so like, sure, I think they're cute, but like that's the extent of it. I'm not like, oh man, I've got to go out and buy this thing. So no, like I said earlier, I have two Black Series Star Wars figures. I've got a handful of recent Star Wars Lego sets. That's the extent of my buying Star Wars stuff at the moment.
Um,
Other than buying the omnibus versions of the Dark Horse comics, which are infinitely superior to anything Disney's producing, but that's a side topic.
So one thing that was kind of neat because with our analysis of the sixth episode, and I watched, like I said, I watched the Generation Text version where they were talking about the sixth episode. They nailed about everything we talked about, which made me really wonder if like did they watch our show and just like not that I would complain if somebody cited that because I mean that's what we do. We watch stuff and it's like oh that kind of made me think of this or whatever. But one of the things like because we were talking about like the engines on the Star Destroyer on the Chimera, and they made note that two of the main engines were gone. It still
Yeah, it's
had
all, the center one's still on, but the other two weren't.
well, actually, I think it was the two on the left one and the center one, or if you're looking from the back, the left one and the center one was gone, and the right one was still intact, but didn't
Oh,
wasn't lit.
I had to double check. I could have
That
sworn it's the center one that was lit up.
but it wasn't lit. But then the four secondary ones were the ones that were lit up. But the comment that I had made is that they didn't really need those engines because of the repulsors,
Right.
and that's what he had mentioned as well. Is that
Well, right, and I
that
cut you off here, Jim. Uh,
you enjoy cutting me
no, no,
off?
no. The only reason is because as I was editing the video, like I realized, like we went on this wild tangent about the repulsors, and that wasn't even the point I was trying to make. Which it's fine, Let's talk about Star Wars all day long. But no, the point I was trying to make was that the guy that was complaining about it, it's like, no, it doesn't matter how the hell the Star Destroyer stays up. We established back in Rogue One that it's possible, and
Yes.
that was in a canon movie that a lot of people watched. And now this jackass is like, oh, how's the Star Destroyer staying up? It's like, you watch Star Wars movies? Like, why are you complaining if you don't?
I'm gonna have to send you that episode because I swear he even talked about the fact that it was shown on I don't know. It's scary like, the amount of stuff because the other thing he was talking about was the that the stormtroopers that the red wrappings were Night Sister wrappings.
Yeah.
Is probably why they're probably all dead. Now the question is what killed all of them? Thrawn. You failed.
Well, let's just say I have an answer to all your questions on that, but I can't tell you.
I know, I know. It doesn't matter.
Uh,
I can say because I do have some streaming stuff as well. Once you get done with your
well, so one of the other things that this individual brought up uh, was that, like in the firefight in episode 6, uh, that he was like, "Why aren't they trying to shoot her in the head?" And I'm like, "Well, I can tell from your foreign accent that you've never held a handgun, you've never held a firearm, much less shot one, because you're in one of these countries that doesn't believe in things like that, and so you're an idiot. You don't aim for the head, especially in close combat, because it's the smallest thing. Yeah, sure, it's an instant win, but like." pretty much any shot to the torso with a large enough caliber is two. And that's why you aim for the torso. Because, like, you start punching holes in there, like, people are going to, it's going to kill them. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to aim for the head. His whole point is like, oh, she's wearing armor. Why don't you aim for the head? I'm like, they're bandits who probably have no resistance aiming at rock people. Like, and again, if you'd ever fired a gun in your life and had any concept of how aiming works, like, you'd know that people are not trained to do that. Like, you just don't do that. It's like,
We all can't be Alec Baldwin.
wow, Jim. Wow. There's the hot take we were all waiting on. Wow. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, but
Speaking of which, I saw a comment that brought up a good topic. It's something we can discuss at some other point. Was, do you think Rust will do good in, box office wise?
are they going to finish it, release it?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I mean, you know, I don't know. That's a bad deal all the way around. Like, as much as I think Alec Baldwin is an absolute blowhard on a lot of things, like, I
Yeah.
I
No.
know it was I know it was an accident.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
I don't wish that upon anybody. Like, the whole thing was an accident. I do think he probably should have faced charges for it because, as the producer and as one of the people on the set handling the firearms, he is responsible for making sure they're empty or have blanks. He's not the person most directly responsible,
Yeah.
in my view.
Yeah. And it's
I'm not
involuntary.
I'm not a lawyer again. This is not legal
Yeah.
advice, but, like, in my view, it's probably the armorer. Because there should have never been live rounds on the set. I have no idea why there were. Like, that's just asinine. Like, the only other incident like this I even know of is from The Crow, and from everything I've ever read about that, it was very different. It wasn't a live round. It was a blank.
But there was something in the gun.
There was something in the barrel because the armor had already left for the day because they said they weren't going to film one of the scenes. And they decided to film the scene. He had not cleaned the guns because they weren't going to film. And a blank has more, as I understand it, has more powder than a normal round does. It's just there's nothing on the end of it.
Yep.
Well, anything in that barrel becomes a lethal projectile with that kind of force behind it. And that's all it takes is a tiny little metal filament, and you're done. That's what happened to Brandon Lee on filming The Crow. But that's an accident all the way around.
You see that they're looking at I guess they're going to be doing a whatever of The Crow.
I heard a couple of years ago they were talking about it, so it doesn't surprise me.
Well, that the travesty of them wanting to redo Crawl.
Man, Krull.
That was
Did J.J. Abrams propose that by any chance?
the
See
thing.
If he can destroy some more movies.
Well, what they need to do is get Liam.
He needs to get lost.
They need to get Liam Neeson back if they do, though.
Yeah, same role.
Yes.
The main guy's still alive too. I told you he was in Deep Space Nine, didn't I? He's the one Federation officer. He's bald. He defects to the Maquis.
Oh yeah.
And like him and Cisco kind of have a philosophical discussion there towards the end before he like sacrifices himself to save all the Maquis people that are there. And Cisco's kind of like, well, maybe it wasn't an asshole. Yeah, that's him.
There you go. There you go. Kroll, the later years.
There you go. It can be a sequel. Some other thing comes back, and the
Cyclops that became door paste comes back.
Yeah. But no, there's one other thing I just kind of want to say about Ahsoka. Like, it's kind of two things. Sorry, I really shouldn't say that. So I get the criticisms of the show, and I'm not going to lie. I have criticisms of Episode 7. It's more stupidity with the New Republic. Like, that train still hasn't left the station or entered the station, whatever train metaphor. That train's still going. There we go. Right towards the cliff. It's probably already over the cliff. I don't know. I'm losing my metaphor here. But it's more stupidity with that. And it's like layers of stupidity now. So I'm not even going to go into it here. I'll wait till tomorrow. So that all the way through this show is a very valuable complaint. You could say that Sabine never suffering any consequences for anything she does even though what she does is dumb as shit most of the time, that's a problem from a narrative standpoint. Uh, some of the things that Ahsoka has done are, don't make any sense. Like, I'm not entirely certain exactly what lessons she was supposed to have learned in the world between worlds that she wouldn't have already known, and why she needed to learn them right at this very moment. Because another video I was watching, kind of pointed this out. It's like, so right at the moment that she's probably one of the only people that can stop Thrawn, she's questioning if she should be a warrior. Because like, once Thrawn's back in the main universe, in the main galaxy, it's going to become a hell of a lot harder to get to him once he has the Nuevo Empire backing him up. You know, this is
Yeah.
like the one shot, the one realistic shot they have. Or where in the hell is Luke? Like in all this, why weren't they like, "Hey, Luke, we got this big problem. We got some potential dark side force users. We got Thrawn maybe coming back. We got a Night Sister. Like, this is all right up your alley, buddy. Where are you?"
Well, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand the galaxy's a big place. It's a big place, but you sent a meme earlier that actually fits this just perfectly. Where the one issue with all the comic books is when all this stuff goes down in New York City,
Yeah.
and you I mean,
Yeah.
New York City is large. Don't get me wrong, but for for as many superheroes that call that home, it shouldn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the idea, at least back in the '60s and '70s, when it all kind of canceled each other out. It's like, well, the Fantastic Four aren't going to show up because they're busy fighting Mole Man.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man's got to deal with the Sinister Six, and yes, that's relevant to the meme that I sent him. Where they're like, oh, yeah, well, it happened to Bullseye last week. Went to go fight Daredevil, let him fight in the Hulk. How is he? Oh, he's dead. But yeah, I mean, you can say that, but like, throw a line of dialogue in there. Like we couldn't get a hold of him. Or like he's off training. He's not training Grogu. Uh, I don't know. He's off on Tatooine, going through Ben's old stuff, seeing if there's anything else there. Or why didn't Ahsoka at any point be like, "Hey, Luke, I got." No, I can't say that. You haven't seen the episode. Never mind. I'll tell you tomorrow. So anyway, there's just things that are problematic with the show. Okay, and we definitely acknowledge that. But I see these other people, and I know it's for clicks on YouTube. I get it, and we'd probably have a bigger audience if I was just sitting here yelling about how aggressively average this show is. Maybe I don't know. It'd be a different take, I guess. But like, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. Like, I'm not going to react like that. And I'm totally behind the guy that's getting people's reactions where they're basically like, looks like they're on ecstasy or something every time they see something Star Wars related. Like, those people deserve to be made fun of. Like, whenever we should record us actually watching the episode. So people understand that we're not just like making fun of these people while we're sitting there like, oh my god, the Millennium Falcon, and oh look, he Vadered. Which, yes, someone actually said that. Apparently it's a verb now. But, although anything can become a verb if you try hard enough. But, yeah, it's just, those get to me, but it's the disingenuous criticism. It's fun to make fun of this. Let's jump on the bandwagon and let's just make shit up, you know, or things that should be explained in the show, and it's just it's dumb, and it dovetails into the other thing, which is I've been thinking about this a lot lately with Ahsoka, and I should have probably been thinking about this a long time ago. Is it fair for us to judge it episode by episode? Because it's not episodic. It's it's one story. It's not like Seinfeld, where the episodes don't connect in any way until you get to the final episode. Spoiler alert. But
Yeah.
the trial
Well, there's two reasons. One,
is presented episodically, so
yes,
I get it. But like, as a narrative, we're complaining about things it's not explaining that maybe it's going to explain. Now, admittedly, it's got one episode left, well, two from your perspective, but one episode left to explain those, and there's no way in hell it's going to. But it'd be like judging Game of Thrones on specific episodes instead of like, no, we should look at the season or the show.
they should make it in a one viewing format at some point.
Yeah. it'd be a long movie at this point because the episodes are short.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be like a what, like 3 hours, 4 hours,
Yeah, probably.
and I don't think that'd be bad. I mean,
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I was like, I think a lot of the criticisms are coming from the fact that we're looking at it episodically when maybe we shouldn't be, and maybe they shouldn't be. To your point, maybe they shouldn't be presenting it that way either. Uh,
because well, they could have made it a movie and trimmed down a bunch of the.
yeah, yeah, probably. But like, that's why these episodes don't have satisfying conclusions. Some of them.
I don't think that we judge it and go, oh, it doesn't have a good conclusion. We did for the two because they made them shorter when they could have just
Yeah,
grouped them together into one episode. I don't think it has to have, as an episode, because like I said, it's just breaking a big thing into chunks, and I think those two chunks could have been together, and I think it would have made a better episode. But
yeah.
to your point, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think that maybe that's where some of the criticism comes from because like with Andor, they put the first three episodes together for that very reason because they saw them, I'm sure, and were like, no one's going to come to episode two. Like, we need to get this arc done so people buy in, so they'll watch the rest. You know, if it would have just been that first episode of Andor, like that would have been rough. So
Yep.
I don't know. I think that's part of the problem. Because people that see the first two and they're like, "Oh, this is stupid," and that thought process just carries through, and they're not not looking at it as a whole. And again, it's not that it's great. It's not. It's just that it's better than the sequel trilogy.
I say it's got some good moments. Let's say. I mean, I don't. I think overall, it's a good. It's a decent story. It's a good story. I don't think it's a great story. It's a good story.
Yeah. Once we get to the end of this story, I do want to do a video about like some of the plot lines that they could have gone with. That it's there. They just
Yeah.
chose not to and chose to focus on something else that could have made better storylines. Because I got to see if they do play out by the end. I don't think they're going to, but because there's only like 45 minutes left to finish this up, and I just don't see it happening. So stay tuned for season two.
Yeah, that's all right. So
So anyway, you got something else.
yes. So again, my streaming. A lot of my streaming is YouTube stuff because I put YouTube on when I'm working and all that stuff because it's just nice to have that in the background while I'm working away on stuff. So occasionally I'll sit there, like on my lunch break, I'll sit there and watch some. Um, Now, the one channel I was watching on YouTube today was a channel called Saber Spark, who does animated movie reviews, and usually very terrible animated movies. Um, Today's one that I was watching was North Korean propaganda cartoons. It's interesting, actually. Um, but I mean, obviously, it's you know their group of people doing all of the cool and heroic stuff, and then I think there's one of them that had where the Americans were represented by
Anthropomorphic,
anthropomorphic eagles. They were
as they should be.
and then they were, I'm trying to think what the heck they were in that one.
Panda
But
bears.
no, but whatever they were, I mean, there's definitely scenes where they're just like mowing down the Americans in that and all of this, and it's just like wow. But
Clearly, they weren't fans of Team America.
or
Greatest theme song ever.
or oh, uh, the James Franco.
Oh, the interview.
Yes,
Yeah.
probably one of uh, the best. Like where they, I don't even know. I can't. It was a Katy Perry song, I believe, that they had where they were blowing up the helicopter with and they did like it in slow motion as the helicopter's just disintegrating because he learned how to drive the tank that was his because Kim took him out in the tank and showed him how he could shoot stuff with it and all this stuff. He's like, you got a tank? Knew how to shoot the cannon or the gun in it and took him out.
Yeah, I never watched that.
Pretty good. I mean, it's not great, but it's pretty funny. I mean, again, another movie that probably would never be made ever.
Wasn't made that long ago.
But you'd be surprised in just that short. Well, I mean, the same thing like when they're talking about like Tropic Thunder and stuff like that. And
Yeah, well, Tropic Thunder. That was a different time, a more innocent time in America.
well, and I even heard some feedback on that even the actor said that it wasn't that Robert Downey Jr. was playing like some sort of whatever. He's like he took the role seriously, as in this is how kind of dumb Hollywood has gotten and everything,
Yeah,
and and it made sense. I mean that's just like the one movie where the one guy was trying to get into college and
Soul Man, I believe. C. Thomas Howell, James Earl Jones is his professor. He actually used the end of that movie in a paper I had to write for school one time. Because even though it's a comedy, it actually does have a very profound message at the very end of the movie. Whenever James Earl Jones finds out, he comes to him without the face paint on,
yeah.
and he's like, "So you got a taste of what it was to be black in America?" And C. Thomas Howell's like, "Oh no." He's like, "I knew I could take the paint off at any moment." And James Earl Jones is like, "Well, maybe you learned more than I thought you did." You know, there's a very very profound moment there.
No. But no, I can say
Way more than you'd expect from a comedy.
I can say that I would say the Saber Sparks itself is a really good channel though, and like I said, he does mostly like I said bad animation stuff. Like so he'll do like he won't do like Shrek. He'll do like this other like tiny company that tries to make a Shrek knockoff. Called Donkey or whatever, but it's not the donkey from Shrek. It's just some random donkey doing stuff.
Reminds me of an episode of The Simpsons. Mr. Burns wants to have a movie made about himself for like this film festival, and well, first he's like Spielberg made that movie about Schindler. He's like, I sold bullets to the Nazis too, only mine worked. Damn it! And he's like, God, you're a monster. And then he's like, well, we can't get Steven Spielberg. He's like, then give me his non-union Mexican equivalent. And the next scene, he's like, ah, Senor Spielbergo.
uh, but yeah. So you've got the
Oh,
miscellaneous
the
one.
miscellaneous. So we're probably a little behind on this. I meant to mention it in the last one. I'm given to understand from my viewing of various videos on YouTube that apparently, starting from some video that I think was on TikTok, there's a thing going around where women are asking their husbands and/or significant others how often they think about the Roman Empire, and apparently the answers they're getting are pretty much along the lines of, well, like once a day or once a week, and they're all just like, why? And most of the men are like, well, like pretty much most of the modern world's built on concepts pioneered by the Romans and the architecture and your parts of our systems of government and certain aspects of the military. And he's like, we could just go on and on. And at least one of the women is like, I've uncorked the Pandora's box here. Now I get Roman Roman history every day because of this.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why one of the spots I ever want to do is go to Rome and
Yeah. My sister Jessica, she's been there to the Colosseum and everything. Yeah.
dang it. I want to go. No, when you were talking about Julius becoming a knife holder, um,
Yeah. Involuntary knife holder.
yes, except I'm pretty sure they pulled the knives out. They didn't leave them in there.
Et tu, Brute?
E two, Brute. Yes. Um, no, because I had watched some special on, like the History Channel, whatever, on Caligula, and I was gonna say, it did not pay to be his family though. They took his like 2 year old and grabbed him by the legs and beat him against the wall, like swinging
Yeah.
him into the wall. Um, yeah, I mean his wife and everybody. I mean they were all just brutally murdered, and it didn't not pay to be royalty in Rome.
No. No. Well, I mean,
Unless you were a decent person, which I don't imagine many were.
there was at least one that I know of. I actually have a book all about the various Roman emperors. Cincinnatus, of which Cincinnati, Ohio is named after him, in case you didn't know. I believe, unless I'm mistaken, he is one of the few who actually like stepped down. Was like, I did what I was supposed to do. You know, the Republic is what it is, what it is. You know, like I did my job. This is why I was put here. I'm going to step back. And I think that was after a certain point, they essentially had like a co-emperor. I know there's another title for it, but it's like it's not. I don't want to say it's like the vice president because this job actually is important. Um, the it was more like
You
in the
just you can't just calculate your problems.
correct. This is more like Darth Vader and the Emperor. In the absence of the Emperor, this guy has full authority. Okay, and essentially they'd manage like different parts of the Empire because it was so vast. You know, one guy couldn't do it all. And I believe Cincinnati also is like, yes, and my co-emperor is also stepping down. He was kind of like, man, fuck you. Like, I'm going to do it, but man, this is shitty. Why am I stepping down?
You know, this whole thing must have been why I saw this one meme because I was trying to figure out what the meme was. And it was something like what women are thinking about. And then it said, and then here's a topographical map of the Roman Empire.
Yeah, I saw that one earlier today.
And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I mean, like I said, like I don't think about it daily. You know, other than been thinking an awful lot about the fall of the Roman Empire lately. Not gonna lie. Uh, you know, but like you see the memes like, oh, this road built by the Romans 2,000 years ago is still intact. Meanwhile, here's Evansville, and it's
Yes.
like, come on now. You know, there's things they created that we still can't recreate. I believe we still can't recreate Roman concrete. I think we're closer now. I think there was some big development here in the last couple of years, but I believe that's one that we still can't recreate. Which means we have no idea how they made concrete that sets underwater because that's what they had to have done to build some of the things they built. And I think it's I want to say Damascus steel. We can make an approximation of it, but we can't recreate it. And you know, there's just several other things. It's just it's one of those like, had the empire not fallen, we might have conquered the solar system by now. You know,
Yeah. Well, the fact that they had some sort of, rudimentary plumbing, and then the Dark Ages happened, and then all that all went to crap, and
literally,
well, yeah, then
or
then
went to pot, I should say,
and then their idea of going to the
chamber
bathroom
pot.
was to have a just a hole hanging over a cliff to do your duty out of.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. They don't call it the Dark Ages because it was literally dark out. Although it was for 1 year. I think it's 536 if I remember right. Literally like the year the sun went away. Some massive volcanic eruption and like four other just really shitty things happened all at once. It's like one of the worst years in human history. Yeah, it was just bad.
I don't know. From what I read online, right now is the worst time in human history.
You know, unless you're like on the front lines in Ukraine or like working in a sweatshop in China building iPhones for the bourgeoisie over here, which is all of us basically. In case you don't know that, those of you listening to this, uh, then no, anyone that says that is an absolute moron. Like
Yeah.
like the level, like, yeah, there's wealth disparity. There's all kinds of bad things happening, but on the whole, on the average, life is so much better for people now than it was 2,000 years ago, especially, but like 100 years ago.
Yeah, if you're from 2,000 years ago, leave a comment down below.
Yeah, yeah, we want to know. Was Cincinnatus really a good guy? Is Pontius Pilate getting a bad rap on that whole Jesus thing? You know, let us know. But
Right.
yeah, it's just a funny meme. Like some of the ones I've seen sprung up since then. Do you know Shadiversity? He's a British guy. Always talks about swords and
Yes.
castles and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was doing a podcast. He's like, "Why wouldn't you think about it?" And he's like, "It's the entire basis of our whole modern lifestyle." It just starts going and going and going. It's like, yeah, I figured you'd have that reaction. No, I saw he actually had a video. I think it's a recent video. It popped on my feed recently. Uh, Talking about like they were asked a question about like Darth Maul's double lightsaber, And they were like, by the time we were done, like we began to question why didn't people use double swords? He's like, you could really wreck some shit with this thing, and like kind of goes through the motions. Like, yeah, you've got to make sure like the plane of attack is correct because it's not like a lightsaber where it's a circle that burns through everything. He's like, but I think it comes down to they're just really hard to carry. He's like, because otherwise, like if you're trained right, you just tear through people with this thing. Literally like a double-ended like
Yeah.
3 or 4 foot long broadsword on each side. Yeah, it's like, well, that's not what I was expecting because in universe, I think it's Darth Bane is the one that realizes that a double-bladed lightsaber is actually limiting because you have to be constantly aware of where the other blade is. So your potential angles of attack are actually more limited, and you compensate for this by just massive ferocity in the hope that your opponent doesn't know how to fight against something like that and just overwhelm them, which is why Darth Maul fights the way he does.
Well, if you had oh I'm trying to think what the species is um Dex from the diner.
Yeah. Obi-Wan,
Well, because
come on in.
there was the one guy that was
Yeah, it's
I can't.
I should know his name, but yeah, I know you're talking about. He's a Jedi. He's got the 4 arms. Yeah.
Yes,
It's
and
like,
he
is it Pong Krang, something like that?
Ponkrell.
Pong Krell.
Yes. And he had, I believe he used two double bladed lightsabers.
Oh, that should be impossible. You'd hit in the middle.
I don't know. But he's like, yeah. Well, General Grievous could just put two of them in his hands and just rotate them.
Yeah, I mean, he could use 4 of them as long as everything's synced up, which it should, because that's robot controlled. That's AI controlled, not him controlling it. They'd all just rotate to make sure they wouldn't hit each other.
Yeah, honestly, there's a reason why Grievous was as feared as he was, because we just need to have a whole conversation just about random characters in Star Wars and the goods, the bads, the uglies. And Grievous would be one.
We'll start with Dr. Evazan. Throwing Ponda Baba as a bonus. He has the death sentence in 12 systems. You know that?
Well, yeah, well, Obi-Wan should have been like, got the death sentence in all systems.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not wrong there.
He's like, hey, why's your hand on the floor? What do you mean?
Yeah, I like that one meme I've seen about that. Like, you said this place was dangerous. It is. We saw, it is. We saw someone get killed. Yeah, you killed him. Luke, we live in a society. Yeah. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Like, that was kind of making the rounds. And, as and at the time, I was like, well, I suppose lately I've been thinking about the collapse. I don't think about the upsides.
Well, after watching the Dial of Destiny, it made you
Yeah.
think a little bit more on it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. In case you missed our review of that, not as bad as everyone claimed it was. Not great, but not as bad as everyone said it was.
Yes.
Personally, I think it's tied for the worst of the Indiana Jones movies with the Temple of Doom, but none of those movies fall into the bad movie category with me. So being the worst of a good set of movies, you're still good.
Would have been better if they had mud in there, but just as like some because I think originally
Force Ghost.
Originally thought they were going to go,
spoiler alert,
that Mutt was going to be the new Indiana Jones, and now you've got Indiana Jane, I guess. It's going to maybe take up the mantle. I don't know.
No, the only person that needs to take up the mantle is Short Round. Need to bring him back. He's got good street cred now. He's what the hell's he going to be in? He's in season 2 of something that's about to come out. God, I can't even think of what it is. I'm not going to look it up either because it's going to take too long. We'll talk about it next time.
Yeah,
but yeah, he went from like total just dropped off the face of the map to like started doing a bunch of work in Asian cinema and then won an Academy Award. So there you go. From the Goonies to that. So
yeah.
Is Chunk the only one of the Goonies that didn't like go on to anything else that I'm thinking of? Because he was Data. Sean Astin went on to Lord of the Rings. His older brother is Thanos, and many other roles. And Mouth, he's the Corey that's still alive. And then Chunk.
Yeah, I don't know.
think it's Chunk and Andy, the girl, the girl that didn't have the wasn't wearing glasses. The one that was, I've seen her in other things.
All I know is that they only brought over Goonies 2 for the NES. There was the Goonies 1 stayed over in Japan.
Oh, I wish they could have restored the scene towards the end that's supposedly there, where they fight the squid. Yeah, they're supposed to be right after they come out of the water, or right after they come out of the waterfall. But before they get to the pirate ship, there's supposed to be a fight with it's an octopus,
Yeah.
and there's still dialogue about it. Because at the end, whenever they're talking about what happened, one of them even says, "Yeah, then we fought the octopus." And I'm like, octopus, it's a blink and you'll miss it kind of line, but like that's because there was supposed to be a scene there. I don't know if they filmed it or not.
Now I was watching or saw a thing on Facebook where they were talking about how they actually filmed the cave scene on Dagobah where Luke decapitates the Darth Vader image and his face appears. And I guess originally it was going to be like a mannequin rubber face. They said it looked pretty good once you put like the smoke effect, but they said there's just still something off. Like it looked off in general, while the filming looked all right. It looked off, so they that's when they did like the hole in the floor and had
So it is actually Mark Hamill.
yes,
Yeah.
with his face going, and he was claiming that he had to try to like not get like blink or have tears in his eyes from the smoke and
Yeah.
everything.
I assume they would have done something similar with Bishop and Aliens after the Queen turns him into half the man he used to be.
Yes. Oh, and I saw a theory about that. That'd be an interesting topic, and that is um, that Bishop was gone for an extended period of time. That he could be the reason that there was an egg on the Sulaco. I'm just gonna
Mm.
because the Queen would have had to carry the egg with
Oh
her.
yeah, no. The beginning of Alien 3 doesn't make any fucking sense. I've never even attempted to make it make sense.
No, but I was gonna say
Because either she would have had to have carried them, got them in there, then gone back aboard the ship with no one noticing, or there was a drone, and then the drone would have put the eggs in and then just walked off and died instead of trying to eat the crew like they normally do. Like there's no logical explanation. It's a huge retcon that doesn't make any sense, but it's like, okay, we need Alien 3, so here we go.
well, like I said, it's a
It's the Highlander problem. The whole like we've never encountered this species anyplace else. They're only here, and the end of the movie is, well, guess what? Mushroom cloud the size of Iowa.
well, and technically that's one thing Prometheus fixed is that the engineers are the
Yeah,
solution to.
yeah. The engineers are the solution to the problem, which is why in our video all about this, I was like, we just need to ignore Alien 4 and probably 3. So we still need to come back to the other comment that we got on that. Not here, obviously, but in a full video all on its own, talking about like, what if they were to go like the TV series route, or streaming series or
Yeah.
whatever. Because I think in all of our discussion on that, we never once said anything about like doing that, or it was like one comment, and one of the comments we got was like, "Hey, you should probably do this," and they even laid out like a structure to it and everything. So
Sorry, checking. I was like, oh, I got a Google thing. Oh, it's my Google Pay for Paramount Plus,
uh,
which just went up $1 at $5.99.
how much is Walmart Plus?
I don't know.
Because it comes with Paramount.
I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But anyways, I think we've rambled on enough
Yeah,
for
yeah,
this
probably.
episode.
Yeah, I think we're circling the drain here. So
But yeah, like I said earlier in the video that if you haven't, seen our Facebook page, Geek Cabal, check us out. I believe that's all in the description, right?
yeah, it's on both the front page if you go like to our page on
Yeah.
YouTube, and also it's in the description for all of the recent videos. Like it's in the description of this one. I finally just went in and set it to put it into all the descriptions, but I don't think it retroactively puts it into the old ones I didn't put it in. So you see something from a year ago, it's probably not in
And then also on Twitter or X at the Real Geek Cabal. You can just call it Twix.
there. Yeah.
Now is it left or is it left or right? Um, or Twixter? I don't know. There you go.
Caramel or cookies and cream?
Caramel.
Mm, Gotta go the other way on that one myself, Jim. Cookies and cream all day long.
Well, Owen's a cookies and cream kind of fella. Now I do like the that Hershey's cookies and cream bar that they have.
Yeah, those are good.
Those are good. But anyway,
we'll review candy sometime too, since we're going to talk about that apparently.
Well, I mean, we'll have the Halloween candy. Like, here's what my kids got.
No, Jim, that's true. I hadn't considered that angle. You're dynamite at this stuff.
Well, you know what? I just didn't realize I didn't bring the pumpkins out for this one, but that's all right. The spooky month is coming up. Friday the 13th will be this month.
Will it really be?
Yes. So we'll have to come up with some spooky content stuff on the darker end of things. But anyways, definitely make sure that you do the normal stuff, the likes, comments, shares, subscribes, all of that stuff. Because I mean, we're definitely wanting to grow our channel. We're getting close to that 300 mark. Hopefully, we hit that before the end of the year, and then we can set the next goal for like 350, 400. I don't know.
Yeah, Jim, I meant to say something about that. Your optimism in the NES video is contagious. Like, I like it.
Well, good. I'm glad somebody does. One out of 200, 280 whatever people, 88.
288 as of today.
288. Yeah. Thank you.
Hopefully, still 288 when I check it later. We occasionally lose people, and I don't know what's going on there. Like,
well, there's always the I fat fingered the subscribe button.
This is true.
That speaking of which, last comment before we go. Have you ever just hit the like on like someone's picture on Facebook and you're like, oh crap, and then it's like that like it like notifies them that somebody liked your photo and like
no, I have for posts before. Like if I'm scrolling on my phone, and it my finger hovers on it like a nanosecond too long. It's like, oh, you're wanting to do a thing, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm trying to scroll, you stupid fucking thing. and it's like already goes straight to like the thumbs up or whatever, and I'm like, ah, and then I'm like, well, I guess I got to delete that. Or like, I guess I'll read this and see if it's worthwhile. Okay, whatever,
But
it frustrates me to no end because it happens when I'm like texting with Brad a lot, specifically with Brad. It doesn't seem to happen with many other people on the Facebook Messenger. I'll be like scrolling through what he's writing, and like again, my finger says I'm just a second, like a nanosecond too long, and like where my thumb is right where the icons pop up. And it just, whatever the first one is, because I'm like trying to get away from it and it catches it. And, so I've had to tell him a few times, like, no, Brad, I did not intentionally send you a thumbs down. Like, because that's what it hits. So I'm like, I would tell you if I had an issue with it, I would just send the thumbs down. Like, you know me.
Well, anyways, we could ramble on about that all day.
Yeah, we're done. So, like Jim said, like, share, subscribe, check us out on social media. But otherwise, Force will be with you.
Always.